Good question.
So I guess, good to see you. So what do you mean by 911 calls?
It was my understanding, 911 calls, the citizen doesn't get billed for ambulance service. The county is responsible.
So what do you mean by 911? If like it,
Yeah, it was a 911 call to emergency service.
so let's say, so a typical call, say here tonight, I know somebody's having chest pain. I get on the phone, call for an ambulance. Is that what you mean by 911?
Well, it goes through the 911
It goes through
dispatcher.
the, yes, it
The
goes through.
dispatcher dispatches an
Yes,
ambulance.
there is a bill either way. If we provide a service for transport, there are certain calls that don't get charged for, but it doesn't matter where the call comes from, whether it goes through dispatch or somebody just walks up to one of our ambulances, there's a bill generated. And part of the reason is because we're different from the fire departments and police departments is we're only funded by about 30% by tax dollars. 70% is user fees. So if you didn't get a bill, we would not be able to provide the service unless we were 100% funded by taxes. So if the fire department shows up to put out a fire, that's why you don't get a bill. They are funded 100% by taxes. And we're not. Yeah.
So my question basically is then would the county get a bill for the ambulance service?
No. No.
Okay. I just didn't know if that was part of bad debts.
Oh, gotcha. No, the patient that we transport gets billed for. We can bill the county if you like.
That's just a cost.
Yeah. That was a good question.
All right, is there any other people that want to address the board? All right, with that, I would make a motion that we close public testimony.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries unanimous. All right, so before us is the, to approve the resolution for fiscal 23-021 fiscal year. And we have a resolution, so it's a resolution number 23-21. So is there any concern or differences from what's been presented?
Chairman, I'm in favor of approving the resolution 23-021 for the fiscal year 23-24 budget for the ambulance district. That's my motion, and I appreciate Chief Stoll's attention to detail in the budget process that he runs.
Okay, I would go ahead and second that. So motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries unanimous. And then Commissioner Van Beek, there's a second motion in that packet to approve the L2s.
Yes, sir. I move that the Board of County Commissioners approves the 2023 certification of budget request, Board of County Commissioners L2 form.
A second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries unanimous. All right, I'm not aware of any other business for tonight. Does any of the commissioners have any other business for this public hearing?
I do not, Chairman.
Okay, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Consider ourselves adjourned from the ambulance board. Thank you. All right, now, I just changed my hat. I know you didn't see it, but it was really fast. Now it's the Canyon County Commissioner hat. All right, so with that, I'd like to open the meeting with the Canyon County Board of Commissioners. Present is Commissioner Brooks, Commissioner Van Beek, and we have a Board of County Commissioners presentation to do. And I got blessed with getting to start that. And so that's sometimes it's an upside to be a chair, and sometimes it's a downside. So I get to start this out. So if we'd go to the next slide, please. Somehow, some way, we will really go to the next slide. So I think for the public record, one of the general things that I want to start with is that the Canyon County budget line item and mill levy rate is but one line on your tax assessment that you get for your property. Typically, most properties have 7 lines of different taxes. CWI, could be a city, definitely could be a highway district on that, could be a cemetery district, it could be a school district. We're but one line. So keep that in mind. We're talking about one line on your property tax bill, Canyon County. So within Canyon County, we are not like a city. We don't have optional services that we get to choose or do. We don't participate in the roads. We don't participate with the cemetery. But we do, by state statute, do things that cities don't do. We provide the courts. We provide the recorder's office. We provide the car with the little blue and red lights that you don't like to have behind you. So if you do things right, then you don't get to come and stay in our jail. And so we do a lot of things that are mandated by the state to provide to the county citizens. And that's how state and local government work. Unfortunately, the state, in their infinite wisdom, has restricted many of our incomes to do those mandatory functions. And so we work within a pretty throttled amount of money compared to what it really costs. An example would be in our jail, every day, I think, of the year, there can be an inmate who has been convicted in a court of law and should be going to the state penitentiary. But we get to house them and we get paid around $70-ish a day, and it's costing us anywhere from $110 to $120 a day. That is an example of county mandatorily providing services that we're not getting justly compensated for. So I want it to be known that property taxes is one of my least favorite taxes. And it should be noted that when we work with our revenues coming in, property tax, typically think of it as the last stopgap that fills in the budget. So we do everything we can and we economize in every way we can, and then the last of us being filled in with property taxes. So we're going to go through some of those property tax specifics tonight. All three of us are going to talk at different times. What I want to have you see, and these printouts are available both in paper tonight here, and they're going to be as a PDF file on our agenda like we do everything. But if you would just note that this budget process started many moons ago. There has been many meetings. And so if you were to go through and just sit there and listen to it, it would take you quite a few hours to go through all of the meetings that we've gone through to get to this point. And so those are all listed for you on this second page. So I would encourage any of you, and part of the transparency that we're trying to do is pretty much the audio of all of those meetings is pretty much posted within hours or minutes of the actual meeting. So, you know, you saw that we had a meeting over whatever it happens to be, and you're interested in that, something comes up and you can't get to the meeting. Pretty much you could listen to what happened during that meeting within minutes to an hour, or a couple hours. It's already, the audio section's already posted. If there's documents that we had during that meeting, those documents are typically posted up as a PDF that you can refer to the stuff that we dealt with. So there's the intro. Did I cover it well enough?
You did a good job.
Did I miss anything? Okay. So Commissioner Brooks, you want to take the second page, please?
Okay, so this particular slide that's in the handout, this goes over what Commissioner Holden is referring to as far as the entire budget schedule as we went through it. The next one here, a little history lesson last year, kind of how we got to this current fiscal year, why we've got to do, in my opinion, what's been presented before us. Last year's suggested budget had 0 taxes levied. That would have used 100% fund balance. While great for the taxpayer for 1 year, that is not sustainable going forward for county finances. So fortunately for us, the assessor threw out several different options for the board last year in reduced property taxes that they could take if they didn't want to take the full amount. They chose $40 million, which leaves $14 million in potential levied property taxes on the table. This was approved by a prior board majority that is no longer sitting here at the table. And that left this current board in a fiscal position to do things that prior boards have typically not done, and we'll get to that. It's not a great position, but here we go. So included in that $14 million that was not taken could have been certified as foregone taxes. So what that would have done is there's a little form, and we're going to have to hopefully do that later today on some foregone, but there's a resolution where we say that we could leave the foregone on the table with the right to take it later. That could have been done with the $14 million last year, and it was not. It had been done in the past, so that leaves foregone for us to potentially take going forward. So last year, with the increase in the compensation and the decrease in the $14 million that was not taken in revenue, left about a $25 million hit proposed to the county's fund balance, or basically our savings account. So let's see here. Board, am I missing anything thus far?
Commissioner Brooks.
Yeah.
Inherently, change is good and a fresh set of eyes to look at that. One of the things that I know where you've been involved legislatively, and Commissioner Bolton has tenure experience in municipal government, is looking at what's been funded by other boards, either nonprofits or other services. As we looked at the previous slide in evaluating those community groups, there were decisions that were made that we did not choose to fund that going forward. I didn't know if you wanted to expand on that.
Maybe not so much. I mean, you can refer to the first slide that we had back in May. So we took up each one of the entities that requested county funds for whatever reason. And we had discussion on those as we went through and either approved or.
And I think the criteria that we were looking at is the benefit and tax reduction to taxpayers. And then second, and equally important, is what the county was required to provide in services by statute. So there was a big evaluation, a reevaluation of what the county's position was and what we're asking taxpayers to fund. So really a targeted approach to what we use taxpayer dollars for.
The only thing that I'm going to add is property taxes are very complicated, and it's not a one-to-one ratio. Just because you choose to take a big reduction in property taxes, that's one part of the picture. The other part of the picture is that there has been a large shift from commercial valuation to residential. And so there was not a one-to-one benefit of reducing that. A large portion of that reduction got eaten up in that transfer of the lesser value proportionally of commercial compared to the value of the residential. I mean, last year alone on let me put it this way, on occupancies that we were authorized in the county, that was $1.1 billion worth of value. That's a lot. That's a lot of growth that hasn't been occurring. And so just because you get that much more growth. It is not all proportional, and it's very hard to get your mind around how it all works. So I'll caution you that just because you were to quote unquote lower your levy rate for the county, that doesn't mean that at the end of the day, that property owner who got his bill looks at the bottom and goes, oh yeah, Caney County lowered their levy rate, so I'm hundreds of dollars less. It doesn't work quite that way, unfortunately. So,
As you probably cannot see unless you have the handout, there's a chart here at the bottom that shows Caney County's 5-year valuation history of property values. We've had 129% growth in values across the county from $15.2 billion to $34.9 billion. And I'll refer to that in the next couple slides.
and just a point of clarification, just because there's a building there doesn't mean it's taxable. So of all structures, that was $47 billion and change. And then what was actually taxable is the 34,917. So that's another thing that it's hard to get your mind in, just because you look across the whole neighborhood, that hospital, that school, that church, to name just 3 categories, are not paying into property taxes.
Okay, so year to date, our status is projected revenue was $107 million when these numbers were pulled, so they're not as of today. Our revenues are just shy of $90 million. And those will continue to grow. Some of that shortage is folks not paying their property tax for the current year, so typically over the next couple of years, people continue to pay in. Not everybody writes the check right when they get the bill. Fiscal year 2023 salaries and benefits. There's typically some savings to be seen here, mostly through vacancies. So right now, the last budget was 86 million and some change, and right now we've actualized just over 71 million. And then our operating expenses, otherwise known as the B budget, on this side of the table, budgeted was about $46.5 million. We've actually spent about 31.5. And then with the unspent expenses, like I referred to, the salaries and benefits, we typically see historically a 8 to upwards of 13% in unspent that's budgeted for, but then comes back and goes back into our fund balances, our savings accounts. This year, that money will basically, if it ends up being what we think at the $14.6 million number, that will basically help us make up for the $14 million that was left on the table for levied property tax.
So as Zach Wagner continually reminds this commissioner, we show year-to-date 828. Well, that isn't exactly up to 828. That's probably a couple weeks our missing totals back of 828. And so all of these numbers are always fluid and always changing. So they're the best representation that we could make for the presentation.
Okay, so for this year, the suggested budget that was brought to us back on August 4th did not include any compensation and no new employees. So we had 28 position requests across the county. Public safety, as I'll allude to here in a couple of bullet points, but there was nothing to address there. Requested were 6 positions, I believe, in law enforcement. Elections equipment, couple weeks ago that came out when we were talking about the tentative budget. I would like to correct what was printed in the paper. So the board did not request $968,000 worth of equipment. That was actually in the clerk's requested budget for the elections department. The board did not request that. So then the clerk came back with his suggested budget, and that had been taken out. And then, as discussed on the record, for the tentative budget, I have been working with staff in the elections office to come up with a number to at least not fully fund the initial request, but to do something as far as equipment purchases and the $40,000 needed to upgrade the software on the actual machines. And we'll get to that a little more. Then I alluded to it a little bit earlier, the misrepresentation of the actual budget numbers. So what that was is in the initial suggested budget, we were short $15 million in revenue, and it was all doom and gloom, but 14 million of that was the $14 million that was left on the table, and that was not actually explicitly explained in that meeting. So as you'll see later, this board has a different take on what the actual revenue coming into the county looks like. So our tentative budget that we approved for publication is a modest 3% for current employees and compensation. So last year there was a lot of uproar over the compensation package that was passed. Well, part of that was because prior board members that are not here passed budgets that had a 0 to 2% compensation through a highly inflationary and volatile job market. So to catch up, because for instance, the sheriff's office was the training ground for the other law enforcement agencies around here. It was very high turnover, low retention rates. So it necessitated something be done, and it created a very large, painful pill to swallow. So this board, coming out of the meeting a couple weeks ago, did not want to participate in jumping right back onto the path that got us to that point last year. So it was proposed for a 3% increase going forward. One thing I've learned in 8 months of being on this job is we have several single points of failure. What I mean by that is there are multiple positions around this county where it's one person is trained to do this one particular job. And if that person, for whatever reason, can no longer do that job, this county has a really big problem. And it is going to affect multiple offices and multiple departments. So I did not feel like it was in the county's best interest. And I think that obviously this board agreed going forward in printing this budget, and hopefully we'll pass it. But 17 positions being approved to help out those single points of failure and get some cross training in case something does happen to those folks, because they are highly critical positions and the county needs them done no matter who's in those seats. Anything further on that?
That's good.
Okay. Election security and expanding equipment to reduce voting lines. So this is a customer service thing that we get, not daily complaints, but at least weekly. What are you going to do about voting? What are you going to do about the hour and a half, the 2-hour waits? So for us, not doing anything to help reduce the lines, the wait, it was not an option. So I touched on the $40,000 for upgrading the Windows software that is on the machines, that absolutely has to. The other $260,000 is for the elections department to choose how they see fit and how they can purchase machines that will be most impactful to reducing lines and helping voting. Another thing that we're working on, and I think we've pretty much secured, is a second early voting location in Nampa. And we hope to heavily promote that so that people will vote, in those 2 weeks early, rather than waiting till the day of and then exacerbating the problem with the lines.
Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
you're too modest to say it, but I really appreciate the fact that you jumped right in. You have been actively involved with the legislature. That's your history. You study politics for a hobby. And you understand that Iowa state statute does give us the ability as commissioners to look for polling locations. So thank you, because we do receive the complaints that you're talking about. You've been active in the community, working with local governments and schools to try and get those additional polling places secured. So I think that's worth highlighting and celebrating. You brought great things to helping with that effort in our county.
Thank you. Let's see. So this is something I also learned in the last 8 months. Law enforcement expansion within the sheriff's office is 5 of those 17 positions. What I learned was that we have not added anyone to patrol in the last 20 years. And I think I've lived here my whole life, but I think if you lived here at least the last 10 years, it's pretty obvious that we have a few more people in this county than we did 5 years ago, let alone 20 plus. So obviously this board thinks that it's important that we begin addressing that issue, because from a customer service standpoint, that is something that we also hear regularly for a public safety standpoint as well, that we need more control in the county. It's not the largest county, but there's a lot of people here, there's a lot of land to travel. And with the increased population, it takes a long time to get from one end of the county to the other, so.
Hundreds per mile.
Yeah.
Brooks, I wanted to say too that the board has enjoyed a very good working relationship with the Canyon County Sheriff's Office, with the addition of Chief Hart to Sheriff Donahue's staff, the addition of Captain Talbot to the captain's staff to handle administrative portions of that. I want to also look at your other command staff for Carol Patchett, who runs the jail. It's a difficult assignment. And then Captain Gentry, I really appreciate him. He had one of his staff down here telling me how great he was to work for. So just a great command staff that is really interested in protecting Canyon County citizens. This has been a great board and CCSO partnership. We interviewed a job candidate, and what he talked about that we all agreed on was the interdependence between offices and the working relationship that has to exist, because that's what our citizens elected us for, and that's what they expect. So those things, I do want to say, because I believe I'm on audio and a visual, but the budget book that the sheriff's staff presented to the Board of County Commissioners, this is it. There's a lot of pride and effort that's gone into this. Your chief was instrumental in putting this together. It will now forever change the way that Canyon County presents its budget process. It is detailed, it is comprehensive, it is supporting, it is an amazing document. And so for that, it is worth recognizing Chief Doug Hart. He's got a lifetime and a generational lifetime of service in law enforcement. So I'm taking the long way around, but the analysis that he did of the need in Canyon County for additional patrol deputies and sheriff, then you brought out that even though there are 5 police departments within Canyon County and certain municipalities, the Canyon County Sheriff's Office is ultimately responsible for all of the county. They're the backup. Those police departments have dedicated hours, so if it's past that hour, then it is the CCSO officers. It's a fascinating listen if you go back through those and the documentation. I really appreciate it. I have a lot of respect for what's been done in this budget process and the team. So thank you for that, and thank you, Commissioner Brooks.
Last piece on the slide is relatively no increase over the approved fiscal '23 budget. Initially, when the numbers were pulled, it was pretty flat. I think now with the latest payroll, we're up about $300,000 over what was approved last year. I think Commissioner Holden, are you taking this slide?
Okay, so what I want to leave you with is that we have a total tentative approved budget, and what it looks like on the surface is, oh my gosh, they have a story and a narrative and the numbers don't support it. What I want you to focus on is the ARPA money. It's a one-time deal. There's no guarantee that there will ever be an ARPA unless you want to go through COVID-1 again, which the unnamed administration is gearing up for COVID-2 as I speak. And it's you can all have your different opinions about COVID. So ARPA funds comes out of COVID event, not having it again. One time, when it's gone, it's gone. Unfortunately, this amount of money has to be spent at a specific time. And the last day of December of 2024 has to be in contract, has to be in process. So we made the budget and intentionally pulled out the lines that deal with ARPA in the 2023 budget and comparing it over to the 2024 budget. So you can tell that there was more than $38 million in there last year because they spent $5 million of it. And I'm not begrudging them of spending it, don't misunderstand. But we are under a timeline now to get this spent. We have identified projects that are priorities that need it to be spent on. And in my frustration, what Commissioner Brooks was saying, just less than 3 weeks ago, we were at a budget that was at or below last year's operating budget. And because of things that happened during the time period between then and now, there is a $315,747 additional above last year, which is a whopping about 0.12% increase. So when you're dealing with $127 million, a little bit over 0.1% increase is pretty darn close. If you don't believe me, try it with some other budget that's that big. So, so keeping that in mind, we're showing last year's total revenues at 107, and those we still expect will be a good number. And our total revenues over here are the 153, but you need to take out the $38 million in ARPA, and that gets down to the 115, 253, 594 is what we're expecting to have in revenues from all different places, which would include property taxes. So if you wanted to get into the weeds on the budget, the next 2 pages are those different budgetary line item amounts, and we have it broken down into anywhere from 2021 actual, 22 actual, 23 budget, because our budget year does not end till the end of September. So we're still living in it. And then the tentative budget for 2024.
Chairman,
Yes.
before you move on, can you talk about those, or were you planning to talk about those last 2 bullet points on foregone and
Okay.
strategy?
Okay. So I stepped on foregone just a wee little bit. I know for some people in the public, foregone is a nasty thing. And it might be, it's your prerogative. But foregone is a tool, and it's a budgeting tool. And think of it, here's how I'd like to think of it. You have the capacity to tax your people, but you've found efficiencies in your budget that you don't need to tax the maximum amount, but you know you have growth. And those houses that just got occupancy, they may not be stressing on your system today, but they will probably within the year. And so you don't need the money right now, so you put it in foregone in case you do need the money going down the road. Because those properties, that impact on public services really exist, and they won't go away, they'll just grow. So to use foregone as a tool to not have to tax your people and have it as a safety valve in case you need to coming later, I think it was a wonderful safety valve that's totally been misunderstood and attacked at the state legislature. And we'll see where it goes, because in the meantime, they have attacked foregone. It used to stay there until you used it. So now it's a 3-year deal, and it falls off at the end of the 3 years. Canyon County had approximately $9 million in foregone because of the new formula, House Bill 292. We could get 2.2 million of the $9 million that was there, and we'll lose some of that that's still left. It will fall off and never be available. So prudent, good stewardship and good budgeting, the legislature has chosen to come along and say, I don't care how efficient you are, we're gonna take that away from you. Because I literally think the legislators do not even understand the concept in it at all. So out of the foregone $2.2 million, we must spend at least $1.6 million on capital projects. We can't use it in operation and maintenance or wherever we need it. We have to build something with it. Now, that's argumentable. You could say that's a good thing, that's a bad thing, but that's the rules. So out of the 2.2, it isn't, oh, you just stick it into general and you make the budget meet. You have to spend it in a very specific way. So we did other things. I think two of the strategies that this board came up with, that we saw some significant savings in the budget, and we'll have to live through this budget to make sure if our theory is correct. But we consolidated fleet. We took them out of all of the different budgets and put all of the fleet in fleet. So as an example, our auditors don't stay, our appraisers do not stay in the office all day. They physically have to go somewhere and do appraisals. So they're using fleet vehicles. That used to be in auditing, 4 or 5 vehicles in auditing or whatever it had to be. The appraisers, excuse me. I guess Zach doesn't get to drive that much, but anyway.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. We're not even going to go into that, Zach. So we consolidated fleet, and we'll see how this works for us. And we also consolidated facilities. So in all of our we have 15 different departments that are underneath the commissioners. We have 6 elected officials. All of them had separate budgets of fixing their office or adding on to this or adding on to that for facilities. So we consolidated all of those facility type projects to be under facilities and took it out of all of these other separate budgets. Do we track all of them? Absolutely. There will be a page further back that will show all of those different line items. And there'll also be a page that's coming that will delineate the major projects that we're going to have on ARPA too, because ARPA has to be spent a specific way. So did that cover that?
Yeah.
Okay. So again, if you want to see the separate budgets, they're in the printout, and you could look at how those have changed over the years. And that brings us to the car with yellow, no, that's the city equipment that has yellow. It's your cars that have the blue and red. So Commissioner Van Beek?
Yes, and it's my privilege to be able to invite Sheriff Donahue to come and address the public safety needs in Canyon County and what we're planning to do for funding on your positions. And thank you for being here tonight.
Seriously, we were very thankful for the sheriff to come. He was, well, he doesn't play cowboy. He really is a cowboy. And he drove a lot of hours just to be here. And I feel very honored that you did that. I appreciate that and want the public to know. if you just didn't walk across the street to get here.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Commissioner, for introducing me. In the blue and red, you probably should remember. You probably will after. You know, a couple things. You got your slide up there for folks to see. Got our technical assistance program working. We just yelled out loud.
Speak loud.
Really want to commend the board for commend the board for the collaboration as well. This isn't just done by the sheriff's office. It's done by a team, quite frankly, and we've really enjoyed and appreciated the board's willingness to look at our needs for now and into the future. And the 3-year strategic plan that Commissioner Van Peek mentioned was a very good guide for us. It was a very, very hard lift. It was 4 to 5 months of analyzing, but it did show a very, very good roadmap. We're proud of it. But again, we appreciate the board's willingness to hear us out and to work with us and to look deeply into these matters that really affect all of public safety. So we talked about the deputy positions, and we are very thankful for the new positions. You see there's 5 on the board, and next year there will be at least 4, and the next year after that there'll be 4 as well, and probably 1 more year of 4. As you pointed out, that Commissioner Brooks pointed out, it's actually been 25 years since we have added patrol officers to the Canyon County Sheriff's Office. So we've been offering the same number of patrol officers as we did 25 years ago, with an 85% increase in population over those same 25 years. It's once we started really looking at things, we could see that we were in quite the hole. So why do we need that? Well, you've mentioned a lot of already the tremendous amount of growth. Getting from one place to the other, our response times, it goes right up through dispatch. I mean, how do we dispatch for 25 plus entities and then still have people out on the road being where they need to be to respond to the public in mostly in a time of crisis? So that's been a challenge, and it's going to continue to be a challenge in the years to come. And we have in our plan shown that we will be asking the board for additional positions as the years go by, each fiscal year. What are those threats? Well, crime rates can increase or decrease, they fluctuate, if you will. Well, that depends on how you look at the stats and how the reporting is done. But what we can really pinpoint is what is criminality. And criminality is on the rise. It's on the rise significantly. Whether you're talking about gang resurgence and what we're seeing in those areas, but it's not just that. It's criminality because of this influx of people, because of our territory. And one of the most significant things that we can pinpoint, and I spoke to the legislature just, I think, last week on this to the committee, and that's the involvement of Mexican cartels. Again, as I point out, this is real, it's not imagined. Back in the 90s, it'd be surprising to have a case where we'd involve criminal enterprises, transcontinental criminal enterprises like the cartels. Today, the cartels have infiltrated every single community, borough, county, state in the United States, without question. That's our enemy. That's the enemy that brings the fentanyl, brings the methamphetamine, and then uses the local criminal actors to distribute it. Those folks are very well funded with, of course, American dollars. And you spoke to it a little bit, Mr. Chairman. The administration that's in place is hindering us more than helping us and encouraging this activity of criminality. This is real. These people, and they're brutal. We think ISIS is brutal. They're very comparable to the Mexican cartel, specifically the Sinaloa cartel, the Jalisco New Generation cartel, the Gulf cartel. Those are the main actors here in the state of Idaho. And they are responsible for really the death and destruction that you see through fentanyl. And when we look at the 108,000 deaths, 87% of those by DEA analysis can be attributed just simply to fentanyl. Your people are dying because of it. Our people are dying. Our families are dying. But the lead actors are the cartels. So when we look at a national awareness, this is a national security threat to the United States. I speak about it openly. I speak about it very continuously on the news and throughout the states. And that's what these officers that we're putting back on the road, or putting out on the road now in addition, is because that's what they're meant to address. So when you have more officers, but you gotta have more detectives. You gotta have people investigating these crimes, and of course that leads to more prosecution, so on and so forth. And I would be remiss if I did not mention and give accolade to the last board who helped build this salary compensation plan and authorize it before this board sat to help address the retention and the turnover that you mentioned a moment ago. And I'm happy to report that for the first time ever in my tenure, in the 20 years practically that I've been here, we are now full on patrol, and we are now full in dispatch. We are full within maybe 1 or 2 in the jail. That has never happened. That's what compensation does. That's what true, equitable compensation, salary compensation, a livable wage does for our people. And we retain them, we retain their knowledge, their experience, their know-how. That betters not just Canyon County, but it betters society. So that's kind of where we are with the threats. And the one last thing I would say before I turn it back over to you, Mr. Chairman, is that the jail continues to be a problem, and we're still looking at solutions. But the local option tax, when you're talking about the legislature deeply needs to look at the local option tax. We do have a bill that a representative from Canyon County has written, and that needs to be, so that can help solve without burdening these property owners. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman,
Yes.
and I just want to mention too, you touched on the big hitters in the office, Sheriff. While you were at the National Sheriff's Conference, your chief deputy came and presented, and he recognized my need for the visual, and it was again a great presentation. But you had office equipment, you had rifles, you have needs for protecting your officers and their safety, you have needs for emergency response and crisis, and a lot of those you found cost savings for because of the funded but not filled positions. So a great number of those were able to be filled this year. So a great grant again. Just lots of needs across the board, but because of the amount of analysis and the working partnership, we were able to identify what was really needed in the county and put funding behind that. So,
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let's go to the next slide. So I referred to this earlier, just to make a note so you can get your mind around it. It's demonstrable that we have far more projects than we have funding. And so we have priorities. But at the bottom of this page, it comes up to $1.8 million. And if you go back to what I was talking to about foregone, remember I said that we had to spend at least 1.6 and some change on capital projects. I just left this page in so you could see that we have identified projects that it's not going to be a problem on the 1.6 to spend it. So if you wanted to see some of the specifics of what facilities is going to be doing during next fiscal year, there's a whole list there, and those are allocated foregone capital project expenditures. And out of that, we have to spend at least 1.6 of that. I think it's 1.612. So with that, I'll hand it over to Commissioner Van Beek.
you know, Chairman, and to follow up on that, I do want to highlight Director Britton. He does a great job for Canyon County. He works with every office, every department. He runs towards challenges and new learning opportunities. And with that, one thing that I've asked for in each budget season that we got this year was that list that you just had up on the screen. What is it that our facilities department does during the year? This is a partial list of projects. Rick works closely with contractors and architects and vocational trades to provide outstanding, you and your team provide outstanding service. It's what it makes us proud here in Canyon County. Thank you, Director Britton, for your service and the projects that you're managing. It's significant, and we're going to touch on a little bit of that later, but thank you for being here tonight. I want to move into a different part that we maybe don't highlight, but we should talk about. We also have Director Nikki Schwind here tonight. She's got a master's in archaeology and does a fabulous job for Canyon County protecting artifacts and sites like Map Rock Road. And she put together, and the board 2 years ago adopted a county parks pathways and cultural resources plan. And in that, it's a guiding plan with key themes that build partnerships with the BLM, with the refuge, fish and game, fish and wildlife. There's 5 different tribes that she's built partnerships with. In addition to, she's just a person that likes connection. And out of that, the county has benefited greatly by her ability to do that. And she made a statement once that is true. You can't grow more land. You can grow lots of things, but you can't grow more land. So she is intentional as a forward thinker. She put amazing plans together when it was COVID and continues to be a leader in her department and for the county in what she does for parks and recreation. We don't normally talk about that sometimes, to focus on traditional issues which are a priority, like the jail and elections, but to celebrate what she has done. If you haven't been out to Celebration Park, the museum that seemed like it took forever to finish, she's done a great job. It's going to bring archaeological and university graduate level students from all over the nation and potentially in the future all over the world to study what it is out there. It's rich in antiquity. Also, the gun range, longstanding, kind of an icon for Canyon County, the George Norris Gun Range. There is a gun range advisory committee that's been formed with the leadership, and they're looking at a full site plan with the scope and vision for the future that encompasses safety and recreation for Canyon County. Additionally, she's always conscious and works in tandem with our facilities director to ensure that people of all walks and diversity, as far as needs and ability to access with via ADA, the Celebration Park, the decking replacement project, we were out there on site and toured that with Nikki, and there's our plans that are moving forward to replace that decking and eliminate some of the trip hazards and just really enhance what a great feature that is. There's a lot of people that go out there that she manages that portion of it. It's a remote distance from this campus, but thanks to that. And then I do want to also say a big win for Canyon County. We're going to highlight Diana Center, our fair director. She lived through, again, with Director Britton's help, and was in 2017, she had an idea for the creation of a Fair Expo Center. And the construction started in June of 2021. It was an 18-month project. It was an $8 million cost to taxpayers for that building. If you didn't look at that during the fair, you should. The cost was $10 million, but there was $2.4 million in urban renewal funds. So I talked to her today, and a couple of great quotes. She said, "This is just the beginning. What you need in county government and what we have are visionary leaders that are leading the way to the future." A shout out to her. The tour manager for the Scotty McCreary concert indicated that Canyon County set the standard for tours and how it should be done, and wanted to pass along thanks to the fair director. So she hails from Iowa. We're fortunate she's here, and we'll enjoy her leadership and what she continues to build in Canyon County for recreation. So just a couple of nice things about Canyon County that it includes recreation and what we do here. Thank you.
You know, we didn't think about this, putting this presentation together, but we've just gone from nice things to the dog pound. So that transition was a little bumpy for me, but just as well hit it head on. The county has a great relationship with the Humane Society, and we're able to partnership and do wonderful things together that they couldn't do by themselves, and we definitely wouldn't choose to afford to do what they do. And so I'm on a slide that has to do with ARPA projects, and so we're going to talk about 6 of them. And so if you're ever on a DMV, if you're deaf, you won't notice it, but if you're paying attention, you can hear dogs barking. And there's a roof and a building off to the, it would be, we had this debate, it's to the northwest. And it has a round tent roof, and that has far exceeded its useful life. So we're going to do a re-roofing and some other projects at the Humane Society. Canyon County owns the property, owns the building, and we allow them the use of it. The next bullet point is Pod 6, and that's our stainless steel Taj Mahal. And we're smarter for having done it. We have a couple more years to go on the lease, and then it's going to be a decision time. And in the most kindest, gentlest way, our warden and officers who have to operate that have said, if you choose to buy it, it will be without us here working it. So that is an indicator that it's not the best facility ever, but I think it is filling an interim need that we desperately need. And so it may not be the best, but it's what we have. And it's probably likely not what we're going to choose to keep, because it's just horrendous on upkeep. And it was a great experiment, and now we're smarter. And so out of the ARPA funds, we're spending about 1.45 million on the lease on that for this year. So I'll leave the other 4 bullet points to my other commissioners.
Chairman,
Yes.
we want to highlight, this is going back to a project that Director Britton will manage. It's a new Canyon County warehouse. We currently occupy a 5,000 square foot building that we pay approximately $50,000 a year for. It's not sized appropriately for the growth in the county. So the board did approve unanimously the construction of a new warehouse building that will go to 12,500 square feet. It will have an outdoor awning with a paved fenced bullpen, so be a great addition to the county's buildings. There's also a new county elections building. Happy to highlight that. It will host early voting, training center, a green room to store equipment, a secured vault for ballots, and a drive-through to load equipment. It's moving from a 4,500 square foot space currently on the campus to a 16,500 square feet. So we're going 4 times. That's a great win if we're talking about what taxpayer dollars are being used for. Additionally, we've already talked about the Canyon County ambulance unit replacements. That ambulance district serves a lot of population in Canyon County. They were not going to ever be able to catch up tax-wise and fee-based to afford those units, and they're critical. And then I do want to give time again. This is a really exciting part of what Canyon County's vision is for the future. And Sheriff or Chief Deputy, I don't know who's going to do that, but for the jail project, there's a Sheriff's Administration building. We'd like you to come and talk about that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Yes, it is very exciting. This is we're thrilled to be able to be a part of that. It's a new sheriff's office building, which will help us vacate the courthouse in a couple of years, hopefully, if everything goes right, the timing. And that will give room for the Supreme Court to order more judges, more courtrooms from you all, and we won't be in the building anyway. We are so out of room in that courthouse for the sheriff's office. We've grown, obviously, over the years. The building can't grow itself. So we have literally, I don't know, the public probably doesn't know this, but we took the sheriff's office locker room, bathroom area, and got rid of it and put in, just recently completed, 2 offices for lieutenants and 1 interview room. So that's how bad we are in terms of space. We've made closets into offices and so on and so forth. So we're extremely excited about what the county has done and the decision to use ARPA funds for this one-time spend on building a sheriff's office. And this isn't just about for the sheriff's office, quite frankly. It's for about the whole campus, the whole community of Canyon County. You know, we're going to plan to move our pretrial program from the jail, the hard jail, to get some room over there, and realize that pretrial, our folks that are managing pretrial, that's 780 people a day on average on pretrial that our staff, Lieutenant Engel and others, manage every single day that the judges have let out on the streets because there's no room in the jail. 780 on average every day. That's a lot. That will move over there. Our Sheriff's Inmate Labor Detail Program will move over there. That way the public that's coming to report can report over there, not coming into the jail, not into the visitation area, on either one of those programs. So it's a public-facing aspect. Our records division, where the people come into the courthouse to do the record business, they'll come to the sheriff's office solely to do the records, leaving the staff at the courthouse to do what they do, not be interrupted by that. So those are a couple of things. Secure parking for judges. We've talked about this for years and years and years and years and years, and we've had threats to judges. Some have been legitimate, real threats, where we've sought and received prosecution for those who are threatening to harm our judges. Secure parking for those judges, secure parking for our armored vehicle, taking us out of the fleet shop and putting our armored vehicle where it belongs in a secured area in that part of the building, right? And then, of course, our response time is better, efficient that way as well. And then, of course, by doing that, we're also looking at having space in that building for a true emergency operations center, an EOC room. Right now, again, we're stuffed into a little place in the shop. It doesn't work. It doesn't work for our partnerships. And as Canyon County is now developing our new emergency management coordination program, that involves numerous individuals from numerous entities and industries across Canyon County. We're the first place in the state to do such a thing on this magnitude. That's where it will be centered. So if we do have a natural disaster, we have any kind of an emergency situation, they'll fall to the EOC. It'll be set up as a classroom. It'll be set up as an instructional place. It'll be a place where we have telecommunications and communication from our dispatch center. Again, that helps the entire county. That doesn't help just the sheriff's office. So we're really excited about those things. And I think that, as we move forward, that the excitement will grow. And again, moving us out of this space into a space where we can actually expand and build for the future, long after we're gone, the space to occupy for the growth of Canyon County over the next 20 years or so. So thank you for letting me come up and speak to that.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Chairman?
Yes.
I'd like to encourage, and I'm gonna do that right now because I can't help it. I'm looking at people that have taken time out of their busy schedule. Every one of you, thank you for attending this. We build relationships. That's how we're going to win together as a county. I do want to call out Tasha Howard, who runs our 4-H and program and helps augment the FFA program. Tara Clarich, you're here also, and he runs a tour of what Diane Center bought for pens in that building and helps enhance the relationship that kids can build with animals and learn how to win. Dave Loper, thanks for running and talking trash with the community. I put you on video again. Eric Zolli, you are a great leader in Canyon County. You have such a well-rounded knowledge base. Who else is here? Elder Catalano, thank you for what you do. It's a hard job. Jeff Reach, you are hiding back there, but we couldn't do what we do without your interface with law enforcement and the board of county commissioners. I've already mentioned Rick, Sean Brown. You have a tough job. Thank you for what you do for the juveniles and working with our judges and in tandem with Elda. Mark Tolman, you award-winning fleet director. He and my husband are both precinct chairs, and Mark told him in the last event, I have the best job in the world. I love what I do. I love Canyon County. That's what we want to project. That's what we want to say. Nikki, thank you for what you do. If I missed you, I didn't mean to. I will find Kate Rice. There you are. You have brought a lot to Canyon County. But Miller, thank you for working with the courts and stepping in. You're not our employee, but you are a great asset to Canyon County. The tenure and the knowledge base that you bring to interface with courts and assist. Everybody here is important. And Director Sabrina Mitchell, thank you. Yeah, I found it. So, yeah, thank you. You stepped into a tough role, and I have not only enjoyed you professionally and what you bring to Canyon County, your credentials, but personally, you've been just a wonderful person to interact with. I appreciate you. And so, Chairman, Commissioner Brooks, Vice Chair.
Hey, while you're at it,
You know what? That is exactly right. He hates it, but I do it every time. Greg Brown has brought a lot to this board. People wondered if this would be a good fit. It is a wonderful fit. He leads the directors and is just inherently a great leader. He brings a lot to Canyon County. He can go anywhere nationally, and he chooses to stay here and share his talents with us. Thank you for doing that. You're a great friend, and you are a great asset to this team. So thank you for the work that you do and just pulling Canyon County together. And so that I don't embarrass you more and make you scold me for giving you accolades, I will stop. You're welcome.
That's a hard act to follow. Right. There's a lot of the people that are in the room. The one thing that I was confronted with when I started this job, is the quality of people that we get to work. And they just have, you guys have your heads down, you just do your job. And you're not looking for glory. And the taxpayers have their clues what value we have. We are literally a service, we provide public service in many different aspects. And we really have a great group of people. And so it was, to me, it was important that we stay on top of your wages, your salary, your compensation. And I think inch by inch you can do that, but yard by yard, it's really, really hard. And so this board was really pointed on trying to keep compensation not going stagnant or going backwards. And I think for the most part, we have been able to carry on what started with last year's wages. So with that, Monica, I need to ask you two questions. Did we advertise this hearing in the paper?
We did.
All right, and have you received any kind of written submittal or by email or by mail?
No.
Okay, so what I would like to do, board, is open this portion up to public testimony. Is that okay for me to do that? Okay, and so here's the ground rules. Your comments and conversation needs to stay focused on the budget, what we're doing tonight. And we have sign-up sheets. If you want to address the board from the gallery, please sign up, and Monica will bring your signature up here. And we'll start with a guy I know really well, and Larry, we're going to start with you. So we'll try to keep it in the neighborhood of 3 minutes. I'm not going to cut you off just because you go. And that way we can get to the point.
I have a handout, so there's gonna be a quiz after.
Okay.
And hopefully this won't take any of my 3 minutes, but I really have participated in these budget hearings for probably the last 3-4 years. And this has been very civil, very organized, and I think the taxpayers of Kenny County need to recognize that. We talk about good relationships. We've got a lot to do. I don't envy you guys in your position because we've had a lot of things we've stuck our head in the sand. Safety, law enforcement, the jail, all these things we've struggled with constantly. And I think with the teamwork and working together on this thing, looking at all alternatives we've got before us and resources, because it boils down to money. Where's this money going to come from? So that's kind of part of my presentation tonight. I apologize for my copying machine. It's actually not a very good machine. But I've got kind of 4 points, and I highlighted them here on this page. This report is kind of a thrust of everything I'm talking about tonight. But down at the bottom, I have number 1 point. 2023 total budget was $132 million here in the county, less the ARPA money, $5.6 million. So we had in 2023 a net operating budget of $126.4 million. Seemed pretty reasonable. 2024, Kenny County total budget went to 166. Ooh, what's the big increase? Well, a lot of that was 38 million of ARPA money. This is one-time money that our chairman described and explained about that is available to us as another revenue option. I think we need to take all the money we can. The feds want to give it to you, take it. Unfortunately, we didn't take property tax relief back when for, it was like $14 million to save money to property taxpayers in Canyon County, but that was a decision not made by this board. So typically, this looks like a pretty good net operating budget. We got a $1 million increase in the budget. With what you guys have to do, to me, that's amazing. We thank you. Point 2, 2024 budget is funding. The funding mechanisms are taking the 3% full max by law increase and some of the foregone, as our Mr. Chairman explained, the loss there. Both of these mechanisms unfortunately increase the mill levy rate. Just happens. The 2023 budget, we funded $40 million from the property taxpayers for that budget. In 2024, we're proposing they pay $56 million. So we got about a $16 million, a 40% increase in property taxes we're asking the taxpayers to cough up. I know my proposed taxable income or taxable value of my property in 2023 went down about 27%. So this could actually cause another mill levy increase with a smaller tax base because market values are starting to decline or soften. So the reason I'm making those points is the biggest criticism I hear from my friends and people that live here, live in Ada County. Ada County's tax rate is half what Canyon County is. Half. A lot of people don't know that. Ada County taxes are a lot higher than or not. So I think most of the Canyon County taxpayers would like to see our commissioners focus on decreasing our mill levy rates. With every means and opportunity you have, decisions dropping that rate is going to be beneficial for everybody. Now, this report, which is my point number 4, is as of 7/31/23 shows the Canyon County Investment Fund, which has been set up over a number of years, contributed to, and call it idle funds, call it what you want. It's monies that we've invested. It's our little gold, pot of gold for future. So it sets right now at $29 million, and $47.4 million is available for liquid funds. This could finish or help furnish the needed $16 million, the additional money we're asking for the taxpayers. So that being said, 23 over 24, if we could do that, use 16 million out of this investment fund, that would leave us back to the $40 million of property tax contributions funding this new budget. I think, unfortunately, like I said before, there's so many things we have in a high growth area like we've experienced that it's easy to get behind the 8 ball. Law enforcement is always behind the 8 ball. Transportation is always behind the 8 ball. So you guys have your work cut out for you. And I don't envy you, like I said, but I think if we look at every opportunity for revenue that's available to us to help the county, to help the taxpayer, is good business. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stand for questions.
Is there a Jenny? You're up. Yeah.
This isn't gonna work. Oh,
Yes,
yes,
yeah.
okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, Jenny Ernsberger, Namba. Sorry, I'm new to the process and also, just basically found out about the budget hearing. So I haven't looked into too much, but I did want to make one comment about, hearings earlier because, if I'm not mistaken, the public isn't allowed to make comments or concerns during the workshops. Is that true? So I just kind of maybe raised my hand and say, could they relook at that? Because that's where we really need to speak if we have concerns over increases that are coming along.
Okay.
And also for the record, I'm a retired accountant, so numbers are a concern. And then my question now is a clarification to see if I understood this, but are there 2 election official positions now? Is it going from 1 to 2, and then the 2 positions being almost doubled their salary rates? I see the election operations supervisor and then election specialist lead. So my question is, are we gonna have 2 managerial jobs for
Well-
elections?
And I'm gonna attempt to answer your question. So if you really need to get the precise answer, we'll have to have this generated from HR. But the general question, the answer to your question is, we're dealing with no new employees. We are dealing with identifying and reclassifying their supervisory role. And yes, they hadn't had any increases in wages for far too long. And so we went out and we compared the compensation of others in like jobs in other counties, and we brought their wages up to a more comparable level. So no new employees, 2 existing employees who get reclassified what their job titles are and what their responsibilities are, and a slight increase in what their pay is.
Well,
that
I
answer
don't
your
think the
question?
increases are slight, because and again,
Well,
it's
they
all
are
on my
if you haven't
computer
had
now,
a,
but
they are if you haven't had a wage increase for about 5 years.
$30,000 increase in 1 year.
You're not
per
dealing with the
position.
same information that I am, not even close.
Well,
So here's my suggestion.
it says right here, the increased salary range to pay grade 14 from 60,000 to 83,000.
That is a range. That is not their specific salary. Their specific salary would start at the very low end of the 60s.
But even so, it was a $32,000 job before.
So again, we're talking about very specifics, which I'm not comfortable about talking. You could come in and we can help you with that. I'm not doing a public employee's wages in public. I just shouldn't.
Okay, I just wanted to raise concern, to make sure it was only 1 job, but the name was being reclassified, and then the increase on top of that, so.
I'm not sure where you've got the numbers for the increase. They are grossly over. The numbers you're seeing is grossly over what this board approved.
Chairman, and I'm gonna toss in my 2 cents worth. This is going from a specialist position to a supervisor or manager position. So it's a reclassification of those jobs and has the skill set. And then I think what you're looking at is the cumulative total, not per employee. So there's a breakout in there, and I don't disagree with you. That was actually proposed or approved at the last year's budget hearing, and so that decision was made by last year's board. And if you have additional questions, you're welcome to ask those, but probably to identify those is probably not the forum here.
Okay, yeah, fine. My main thing was to try to get more input earlier, because we're at the end here, so I appreciate that.
So in the board's defense, in true transparency, this has been going on for 3 months.
Yes,
And at any time, you could have emailed us with any question, and we could have taken it from there. This is the 11th half hour. And so we would be happy to work with you in the future. But we've done our transparency. And I apologize that you didn't have the opportunity to interact.
okay.
So we'll try to be better next time.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I mean, email is fine, but input in the meetings would be helpful too in the future.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jody, Arnold?
Chairman, Commissioners, my name is Jody Arnold. I'm from Nampa, and I spoke last year and came to the meeting, and I want to commend you all for a beautiful presentation that you made. I do have slight concerns about the budget for machines for the elections department. Right now, they have 250 e-poll books, which if you put them at each polling precinct, that would be 5 for each, which we don't use all 50 precincts right now. We have maybe 30 polling places. So I think that the machines that they have right now are adequate. They have already 71 scanners, which is more than what the precincts that we have right now. And when you add the machines, then you have to add also the software updates every year. And I also want to say that I don't understand why they have to have new software for the machines. I know you said that it has Windows 7, but they're not supposed to be connected to anything. And so security issues shouldn't be a problem, and using the same Windows software shouldn't be a problem. We've only had them for 3 years, and I don't understand why we need to get new software. So that's what I want to say.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Carrie Smith?
All right. Okay, to start, a couple fiscal notes. Lots of comments about being in the hole and not recovering without taking foregone taxes is not the case. From last year's fiscal year 23 budget, $66 million was being projected as remaining funds in the fund balance as of the end of September 2023. And in your own presentation today, it shows 14 million in projected unspent funds from the fiscal year 23 budget, including approximately 5 million unspent from the planned ARPA funds. So with that simple math, that would still leave approximately $75 million, including the landfill and the general fund, as unspent funds and unallocated. Canyon County is not in the hole, as was put on the record, and let alone Canyon County is now receiving the sunsetted revenue from the call to order renewal, which helps balance a budget. The main point of today's topic for me, though, is that I am here to support a legally adopted and noticed fiscal year 24 budget. I want the staff and elected officials that are here today to know that I support their requests and the need to move the county forward. However, the actions of this board have been less than transparent. In fact, in both meetings, as identified on page 2 of the board's presentation that they hosted, very limited public open meetings in the month of August, where they clearly worked on and built out this budget as required by Idaho's open meeting law, statute 74-201 to 208. The Idaho Attorney General's open meeting law handbook also provides guidance regarding open meeting law. Question 8 sets the standards for what an open meeting law is. I'll read directly from that. Even the receipt of information related.
Let's keep this on budget, and I don't, no,
It's an open
I
meeting
don't
law
need tutored
violation.
with law. And if you continue
I have the
to not
right.
recognize the chair, you will be removed from the room. Stick with budget. Budget is not state statute and other area categories that don't deal directly to the budget. This is a budget hearing.
It must
ma'am.
comply with open meeting, and you guys have violated that.
Do we have an officer that is willing to come up here and be ready to have this person removed? Because this is the rule, please.
Okay.
You know it better than I do, and you're doing this willingly. So I'm asking you to please stick with the subject of budget, and you're off preaching to me about state code.
This is a
About-
legal question. It doesn't need to be handled in this meeting.
Nope, it doesn't.
Okay, well, for the record, we'll submit this through a formal action for violation of open meeting law.
And how would that be, ma'am?
Would you like me to go through
Mr. Chairman.
how I did
Point of
that?
order, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
We don't need to get in a back and forth.
Okay. Do you have any other comments or points on the budget, please?
No, just, this was not a legal proceeding with the amount of work that you put on the record, hundreds of hours reviewing and proposing this budget off the record, which is not legal. And so I hope that you're prepared to
3 minutes,
undo this
Mr. Chairman.
budget with you guys interrupting. So I think this is a very clear example of how none of you, maybe Commissioner Lindsay, I'm not going to bulk her into this, but you guys clearly do not want a fair, open meeting. The general public even noticed that you did not host opportunities for the public to have input. You did that behind the scenes using a go-between, which is a clear violation of the open meeting law. And you continue to do that. I would encourage this board to. hold
What are
meetings.
you talking about, budget?
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
Yeah.
We're past the 3 minutes.
Okay.
We don't need to get into a back and forth with someone
Have a great
that
night.
is paying attention more to the job than when she actually held the position.
Okay, thank you. Colleen, would you like to address the board?
I am Colleen, and I was here last year and was advocating a lot for the increase for the sheriff's department, and thank you. And I am very happy to hear that you're up in staff now and on board. And then now I was here to try and really coax you. I heard you're doing the 4 deputies for coming up for new positions. And then from my understanding, there was a request for 8, and that you still came up with the 4. No?
No.
Okay. That I heard through there. Well, I'm just here to really, really prompt you to please hire more sheriffs and put that in your priority in your budget. I'm sick and tired of the speeding. I want to call up Lieutenant Crawford, and I won't because I know he's been under a lot of pressure and hasn't had staff. But once he's got the staff, I want to get him and nag him to come on out here and get these speeders. So please go forward as much as you can in hiring new sheriffs. And I know speeding is probably the least of our concerns when we have such big crime going on and so on and so forth. But the most frequent crime right now is speeding. Everybody's doing it, and it is a detriment in our community to be allowing that big city mentality, because I came there 35 years ago, and I don't want to be California, I don't want to be Seattle, I don't want to be the speeding, do what you feel like doing on our roads. I really want the law in order all the way down to moving violations to be enforced. And they need people right now because of the laws in Idaho. We don't have too many other choices. They need the law enforcers to be there and give out tickets frequently to get some bite in making our drivers drive like they're supposed to. Thank you.
Thank you. I really encourage you for next year during the budgetary process to send in a written
I
testimony.
heard you say that.
Please do that. That helps the board and it supports the public's interest and involvement. So
Okay.
be a part of the process. That'd be great. Is there anyone else in the gallery that would like to address the commission? Seeing that there's none, I would make a motion that we close public testimony.
I'll second.
Motion's been made, seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimous. All right. So public comment has been closed, and so let's go into discussion about the tentative budget. And following that, we will have discussion about the L2 and the foregone. We'll do that as a separate public hearing on the foregone.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I will address the accusation that has been laid before our feet. We have a new position of a chief operating officer that was approved by the prior board. I, at the beginning, when that approval went through, was probably the number one opposition to it. But because of the individual that spilled the seed and the ability that the position provides for efficiency and operation with the board and other elected offices and departments of the board, it's obvious that that position is quite valuable to this current board and to the county at large. Having said that, I will put on the public record that there was no meeting violation because Each individual member of this board met separately with that chief operations officer to go over a budget that was exported from our budgeting software into an Excel spreadsheet. There are 56 different, I believe 56, I lost track at one point, different budgets in this county. I personally went through each one of those line by line twice, and some of those more. We did put, I would say, at least hundreds of hours. I think you said, Commissioner Van Beek, 1,000 hours, but decisions were not made considering this budget to qualify as an open meeting violation. I'm saying that on the record to that little camera on top of the TV. So with that being said, I feel comfortable with the tentative budget that we approved a couple of weeks ago, that we discussed on the record that day as well. You can see from our slide on the dates that we had budget meetings, and we discussed those items on the record as well. Everybody can go back and listen to those. You can see the documents and whatnot. So I am in favor of approving the tentative budget that we approved for publication 2 weeks ago.
Chairman,
Yes.
thank you, Commissioner Brooks. I do appreciate your comments. I have the unique privilege as a member of this Board of County Commissioners to have sat on now 3 boards. And I can tell you that this is by far a board that is vested in the process of open government, of embracing change, of doing a deep dive. I cannot tell you, and I'm going to look at our chief again, the amount of hours that not only he, but his wife, Stacia, who is an amazing IT mind, he knew that this board needed assistance with the accounting software, and he and his wife built the accounting software into an Excel spreadsheet and came to the aha moment at 3 o'clock in the morning one morning. And then from there, as Commissioner Brooks indicated, I have experience with the budget. Am I an expert or not? It takes a collaborative mind. And so we have ideas. Those ideas were generated on a public record. Here's what I would anticipate and say in response to the alleged allegations that are unfounded. As you continue through anything, whether it's a college experience or tenure in a job, the farther you get in the process, the farther you should get in the process. And what I can tell you is that by the time we got done filtering through, evaluating, looking at that, you anticipate that you're fine tuning by the end of August. So that shorter, that's a natural progression on a timeline. I take issue with that. I will say that my fellow commissioners are engaged. As Commissioner Brooks likes to say, you gotta have butts in the seat in order to get the job done. We got butts in the seat and we're getting the job done. And I can say that proudly. We have people that care. I have made it no secret that I was not elected to this position to rubber stamp anything. Nobody owns my vote and nobody owns me as a commissioner. I treat people fairly and like they want to be treated. I do my best, and I come to work to be a person of integrity. That's what the citizens of Canyon County elected me to be. And as many records as they have filtered through, even recently, I can stand before you and say I've done my job as a county commissioner with integrity. So that implication, I can't own that because I don't own it. I can say that I've worked with a very good board and that what each of us brings is an asset to Canyon County and the employees that we serve. I want to say again that Chief Rast is seasoned in many aspects. He was a served many years under Lawrence Wasden. He is well versed with open meeting laws. He was a part of the Special Crimes Division. He understands what government is about, and I won't have a reputation tarnished by people that may have some bitterness at not having been returned to office. And I want to also support Commissioner Brooks' statement that with this budget, this is, as Director Sinner said, just the beginning. We have plans next year. There was such a big ask. This job is huge. I don't know how many people actually study what a county commissioner does. It is an overwhelming task. This is the beginning of a great change in Canyon County, and we are going to highlight the positive. We are going to build teamwork. We are going to work collaboratively together. And for the naysayers and the people that don't, I would submit that that's probably not a futureful position. I find a lot of merit in this budget. I wanted to build a budget book, and that's been successfully for a first attempt at a different look this year. And that is in large part, again, thanks to the IT expertise and the creative mind of our Chief Operating Officer.
I've heard the personal accounts of people's experience from last year. And I'm frustrated with my participation in any of that being brought forward to this room tonight. But sometimes you got to deal with what you got to deal with. We have worked through this budget, as it's been said. I don't think it's any exaggeration that these three people sitting before you have spent over 1,000 hours on this. And I don't see any bloody violation of the public Idaho open meeting law. And everybody's entitled to their opinions. I have 28 years of public service. I have a clue what an Idaho open violation is. I don't need to be schooled on it during a hearing. That's why I was ready to have the presenter removed from the room. It's a budget hearing, it's not a schooling. Always entitled to their opinion, but it needs to be done in the right format and at the right venue. With that said, I would be interested in my other commissioners' thoughts. I would make a motion that we approve the budget, the Canyon County budget for 2024. This also includes the pest control district and the Melville Gopher Control District, which is kind of a strange thing. Out of 56 budgets, you call out these two pest budgets. But my legal Resources Act, Wesley, assured me that this is what we need to do for tonight. And so we have like 66 political subdivisions in Canyon County. I might be wrong. There's a debate about a couple of the drainage districts. So there's a lot of budgets that are on your tax assessments that are influenced and dealt with by the county. Again, we're only dealing with Canyon County's budget for tonight. So I would make the motion that we consider approval of the budget.
I'll second the motion.
Is there any further discussion?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Chairman,
Yes.
I do want to say that in my history, this is the first budget I've approved, and it is because of the due diligence, the attention to detail, the vetting. We've onboarded. That was an idea I had. Thank you, Kate Rice and Bosco Baldwin. We were intentional in recruiting you and giving assistance to fairly compensating our employees. I don't operate in chaos. I don't like to operate in chaos. I have not operated in chaos this year. Thank you.
Okay, if there's no further comment, motion's been made and seconded to approve the tentative budget. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimous. Now, the L2s need to be a separate motion, if I understand it correctly. Someone want to have discussion or want to make a motion to approve those?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the L2 form as publicly noticed and pursuant to Idaho Code 638021E, Canyon County's fiscal year 2024 property tax levy of $56,364,662, which includes $2,202,314 of available property tax increases foregone in prior years.
I will second that motion.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimous. Okay, so the way the statute reads is we need to open up a public hearing on foregone. And if you didn't sign up and you want to address the board on foregone, that's understandable. So I will open up the floor for any public testimony on the $2.2 million on foregone. Last call.
I'll go ahead. What, once a minute? This is Carrie Smith again. I think I already put on the record that there is not a need for foregone taxes to be taken. There is still available funds in the general fund, and to continue taxing the taxpayer is against what all of you campaigned for. And I think that you should really consider not continuing to tax all of us to the maximum amount that you guys have all chosen to do. So I would encourage the denial of that.
Chairman, discussion.
Yes.
And I would submit that in looking and evaluating the options, which we have done carefully, I would state that for the record of last year's budget, I had no knowledge that a request for an additional $2 million in a retention bonus after a 14.5% increase in salaries. I knew nothing about it. It did pass by board majority. Had that board majority not passed that, we might be in a position where we did not have to. I would say that the butts in the seat have the best knowledge of what that looks like. And if people don't know, it is the highest of the last 3 years that we can take. A statement that we will not take any new construction and no increase makes the headlines. It is a short-lived accolade for people to posture that, but in the long run, with a 130% increase in the market assessed value and the increase in population, that posture is simply not a sustainable reality for where we're at. We are looking at providing mandated services for citizens in Canyon County, and I would submit that I was alone in wanting the deep dive. In the previous 2 boards I've had, that has not been the case. We have wanted to keep the tax burden low, the customer service high, and the services provided. That's my statement.
No other people seem to be able or willing to come up. Did we receive any written information, Monica, from the Board of County Commissioners? No. Foregone? Okay. All right. Being that there's none, are you, I'll make the motion to close public testimony.
Second.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Did you vote? I didn't hear it. Did you vote?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't hear it. So motion carries unanimous. So, again, foregone is looked at it very negatively across the public. It's been a tool that some cities abused, in my opinion. And it caught the eye of the Idaho legislature, and it caught fire. And so to be punitive to one or a couple cities out of almost 200 cities, the legislature reacted. And may I submit that there's 165 cities in this great state that are under 1,500 people. There's only 14 cities that are above 35,000. Those numbers might have changed since I had the statistics a year and a half ago because of the explosive growth. But it behooves the legislature not to be punitive to one or two cities out of 200. And it really would behoove the legislature to look at things a little closer instead of trying to fix the one and punish the other 198. And that's what's happened with House Bill 389. That's what we're living currently on House Bill 292. And we won't even get to figure out what our levy rates are. We hope to figure out our levy rates in December. And if y'all know what that means tax time wise, it means a legislature wrote a bill and passed it and didn't even know what their internal rules are on how you figure out the tax bill and the timing of that and how you get it down in the mail. And if you don't think that isn't going to affect the public, you just better not have a mortgage through a mortgage company, because it will go past their time frame to do all that. So we're going to live into some reality coming this fall of a legislature that's not plugged into reality. So is foregone a great thing? No, I hate paying taxes this year that a board or a city council chose not to take. But I appreciate them trying to be frugal and say, we really don't need it, so we aren't going to collect it. But if we needed to, we're going to put it into foregone. And there's more foregone that falls off and isn't used than is brought back in and is used. So it's kind of like a savings account in a little bit of respect, but you don't have to pay till they pull the foregone. That's this commissioner's definition of foregone. It can get a lot more technical than that. So motion's been made. There's been no mention. Is there other discussion on the foregone?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I think we already approved it.
The foregone is a separate motion. It should have been, or was it included on our resolution? Let me look at it.
No, it is. I read it straight on.
Okay.
Did we
No.
make the motion in second and then not vote?
You voted on closing the public.
We voted on closing the public hearing. There should be 2 pages here.
I read straight from the floor.
Oh, you read straight from the motion. You should have been reading that. Okay, all right.
Well, just to cover our rear ends here, I will make the motion again. As Mr. Chairman has publicly noticed, and pursuant to Idaho Code 638021E, Canyon County's fiscal year 2024 property tax levy of $56,364,662, which includes $2,202,314 of available property tax increases foregone in prior years. I move that the Board of County Commissioners approves the collection of the $2,202,314 of foregone taxes.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made second. All those in favor say aye.
Right?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimous. All right, I think we covered that. All right,
Mr. Chairman, I have no closing comments. I'm just awaiting to make my favorite motion.
well, thank you for the forewarning, I appreciate that. Carl, do you see any other technicalities? No. Thank you. All right. I would like to thank the audience that came tonight. It was our greatest goal to do this clearly, concisely, without drama. We got close, but close is good compared to other times, and we'll try to do better. So let's be a part of this process. When I ran for election, I was aghast at the lack of understanding of property taxes and how it works. And so however we can help educate our populace, let's do it. Let's be kind, but let's help them understand what part they're participating in and go from there. And hopefully we'll wake up in a new day someday that there will be a better and more fair and equitable tax than property tax. But this is where our legislature has left us at this point. So I would, unless Commissioner Van Beek has.
I do not, I'm ready for Commissioner Bush, we'll turn it over to him.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adjourn.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Stand adjourned. Thank you.